Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Damage to agriculture sector estimated at over $1 billion. Opposition calls for planned approach to recovery of agriculture sector. And in sports, Windies tour Pakistan for the first time in almost 2 decades. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. Over $1 billion. That's the preliminary estimate of the damage to the country's agriculture sector. Minister Floyd Green made the revelation on TVJ Smart Jamaica this morning. Details in this report. And we apologize for the audio on that story. With a shortage of produce, the country may have to turn to the import market. Now, it is feared it may be some time before farmers will recover from the ravages of Hurricane Beryl. According to JAS President Lenworth Fulton, the government may have to look overseas for some produce, as what is left will not be able to supply the hotel sector and the domestic needs of Jamaicans.
We won't be able to sustain, and we might have to find vegetables from other sources and so on for the hotel trade. So, yeah, I can't speak to, I don't think we have sustained devastating damage in the poultry industry. There's some damage there, but I do think they can recover within the next 3 to 4 weeks by repairing these spends. But in terms of ground provision and vegetables, fruits, ripe bananas, mangoes, all of these things, we are seriously affected by it.
Meanwhile, the opposition is critical of the need for importation. Shadow spokesman on agriculture, Dr. Dayton Campbell, says while he understands the need for it at this time, farmers and the produce which are on hand should be looked at firstly. He was speaking following a tour of southern St. Elizabeth on Sunday.
You are looking at what is going to be a food crisis in the near future. It's going to lead to the government have to depend on some imports, but we don't want to see imports at the detriment of the local farmers. So there actually needs to be a planned approach. I know some persons will think that we are being critical. We're not. We're simply asking for a planned approach to take place. And those who are outside and not seeing the devastation themselves, they may not be able to fully appreciate the concerns that we have because they're not seeing the devastation firsthand. But I'm really concerned about where agriculture is going to be in another couple of weeks.
And the staging of the Denbigh Agricultural Show is in limbo. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, says his team has not yet been able to carry out an assessment of infrastructure at the property following the passing of Hurricane Beryl last week. Now, assessment was further impeded by the impact of a tropical wave on the weekend.
We have to go through this week and do a thorough assessment of the Denbigh ground and talk to the stakeholders, like the people that have the Jamaica broilers, the H&L agro, and all of these people that have their facility on the ground, for them to do a quick assessment and see if they can repair them sufficiently for the show. The show is still on. We are going to do an assessment, and after the assessment, we'll make an announcement.
Back to an earlier story, over $1 billion. That's the preliminary estimate of the damage to the country's agriculture sector. Now, Agriculture Minister Floyd Green made the revelation on TVJ Smart Jamaica this morning.
The quickness of the response is important, and that's why our persons were out in the field the day after. Already we estimate that the damage is going to pass $1 billion to the agricultural sector. I hope to outline a program of support tomorrow in Parliament, right? And we have to start now. The good news is that we have kind of institutionalized disaster recovery and disaster management. So we have committees in all our agencies. We started meeting from...
Like a BCP?
Yeah, we started meeting from January because we know the disaster is going to come. We just don't know the extent of it. Whether it's drought, whether it's flood, you know, this one has come very early in the season, which is a very concerning to us because the season has just started. Yeah. Normally these weather events are later down. And this one has been extremely extensive. So we have already started some procurement of inputs. Thankfully, both.
And we do apologize for that story. Now, the demand for water is increasing in communities battered by Hurricane Beryl in St. Elizabeth. Now, residents have been without water since the storm's passing last week. They've described the situation as frustrating.
We want water. You everything mash up. Don't have we yard, every banana tree gone. The drain want clean. Most of all, the drain need to clean. All of the trees blow down there. See that we don't have no water, so we can't get the water.
And it has been hard for you from that time?
Yes. I had no light. Cannot get to work from last 6 Saturday. Me no work again. So no money, nothing at all. Me want help.
While a number of water trucking companies have been providing the service, they've conceded that the demand far outweighs the current supply.
Since Wednesday, man, it worse, man, by about 10 times, man. Because I'm yard, I see people park up on my gate, because the phone system down. One reach to me. And we take hours to load. You can't get more than 2 trips a day right now. So people still have to wait.
Now, Hurricane Beryl made landfall in Texas Monday morning as a Category 1 hurricane, but its trail of destruction across the Caribbean has reignited the debate as to the role developed countries have and continue to play in warming the earth. Global warming is contributing to severe storms like Beryl that took less than a week to become a Category 5 hurricane. Prince Moore has the details.
Secretary General of the 15-member Regional Integration Grouping, CARICOM, Dr. Carla Barnett, says it has been a frightening start to what is forecast to be an active hurricane season. She says the devastation in the region has brought sadness to everyone, while acknowledging that the immediate focus has to be on restoring normalcy to people and communities and building resilience. In February this year, global temperatures surpassed 1.5 degrees Celsius, and prior to the start of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season, the World Meteorological Organization warned that this record could be smashed again this year, which will lead to the loss of more lives and livelihoods and place national systems and services under intense pressure. Dr. Barnett says this pressure is disproportionately borne by small island developing states.
Minister of Science, Energy and Telecommunications Beryl Vaz is expected to provide an update today on restoration efforts by the Jamaica Public Service Company and the 2 telecommunications companies, Flow and Digicel, following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Now he is also to provide details on decisions made by Cabinet in light of the recovery efforts. Mr. Vaz is to host a media briefing at 3 this afternoon at the Ministry's Trafalgar Road headquarters in St. Andrew. Mr. Vaz is to be joined by Senator Matthew Samuda and representatives from the National Water Commission. And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Normal operations will resume at the Accident and Emergency Department of the Spanish Town Hospital in St. Catherine tomorrow after it was severely flooded over the weekend due to heavy rains associated with a tropical wave. The hospital has been operating under emergency mode since the flooding, which caused major dislocation, forcing the transfer of patients to other areas of the medical facility. Regional Director of the Southeast Regional Health Authority, Errol Green, says all the drains that run by the hospital were blocked, but he says the situation is slowly returning to normal. Mr. Green says a team was brought in to clean and sanitize the area affected by the flooding.
We
appeal to the National Works Agency. They sent a team very early Sunday morning. The team opened the inspection chambers. We saw where several areas of the drain was blocked, solidly blocked. The areas that were blocked were cleared, the obstacles were removed, and water started flowing again freely. We expect the cleaning of the drain to continue as we await the equipment from the Works Agency to flush the drains, but we do not expect any recurrence, certainly in the near future, as the water is running freely now.
The Center for the Investigation of Sexual Offences and Child Abuse, CISOCA, is raising an alarm over underage sexual activity. Speaking at a function recently, Inspector Florine Clark says these acts are often done with an adult.
One of the offences that we have that's haunting us is that of sexual intercourse with a person under 16, where our young children aren't encouraged to place value on themselves, and so they go about engaging in sexual intercourse with both adult males as well as their peers, sometimes even committing several other offences.
Inspector Clark emphasized the urgent need for parents to be educated on how to address these sensitive issues with their children.
Supervise their children, talk to them about sex, and the community has a role to play to ensure that they call us in and the other agencies who are there, like CPFSA, that's the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, to build a knowledge base in the community so that parents can understand that they are not alone and that they can assist in protecting their children in a very effective way.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. The Banana Board says about 80 to 100% of bananas and plantains have been lost due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl. The data is based on preliminary assessments conducted by the board. It says so far assessments have been conducted in the larger banana producing parishes of St. Thomas, St. Mary, Portland, St. James, St. Catherine and Clarendon. General Manager of the board, Janet Coney, says officers are still on the ground assessing the losses despite access and communication issues. She said for commercial banana farmers, which is about 1,564 hectares on the ground, they have experienced about 90% in losses. Mrs. Coney says the focus is now on farmers recovering from the setback quickly. Further afield, Boeing is paying a fine to avoid prosecution, according to a Justice Department court filing. It says the aircraft maker has agreed to plead guilty to conspiracy to defraud the U.S. That charge stems from 2018 and 19 crashes in which 346 people died. The document lists the fine as up to $487 million. That's a fraction of the almost 25 billion victims' families want Boeing to pay. Boeing confirms reaching an agreement in principle, but did not give details. And that's it for the Business Minute. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
The Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, is warning about the serious threat of mosquito-borne diseases in the Caribbean, including recent increases in dengue, Zika, and chikungunya cases. Member states are urged to enhance surveillance and prevention efforts, focusing on eliminating mosquito breeding sites and ensuring preparedness for early diagnosis and care to prevent severe cases. CARPHA says it is committed to supporting member states in integrated vector control strategies. On the international scene, the National Hurricane Center reported that Hurricane Beryl made landfall early Monday near Matagorda Beach between Corpus Christi and Galveston. Heavy rainfall, storm surge, tornadoes and gusty wind will continue across much of eastern Texas as Beryl moves inland. Beryl is forecast to weaken to a tropical depression around the time it moves into Arkansas Tuesday morning. More than 1 million people are without power in the Houston area alone as the storm surges towards the city. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Prince Moore.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.